Oh gosh, Thursday. I don't even know what it is. So, welcome. I've already been on here once this morning with you girls, but I am bringing on a special guest. So, originally I thought about doing a podcast with her. So, actually, I'm going to roll this over into my podcast. So, once again, if you have not subscribed to the podcast, come on over. But I'm bringing her on now. Hi, Steph.
Hi.
How
Can you
are
hear me?
you?
I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me. Oh. You
Okay,
can't
can
hear
you hear? I can hear you.
me? Okay.
Problem solved.
Oh, perfect. Well, I was just telling all these lovely ladies that we were bringing you on as a special guest. We were doing a podcast, so I'm actually just rolling this over into our podcast. But I know that you're going to deliver so much value to everybody, so I wanted everybody to have a chance to be able to get to hear you. So this is Steph Essery. Is that correct, Steph?
That is correct. And a lot of people, as simple as it looks, a lot of people actually get that wrong. So thank you.
Oh, yay. Well, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do. But I have titled this as, it doesn't matter what season you're in, but in this season that you can always start fresh, start something new. You can learn something new. So I'll just let you introduce yourself.
Sure. So my name is Steph. My name is Steph Essery. I have been married 28 years. I just celebrated my 28th wedding anniversary last evening, and we have 5 kids. I was in real estate for 22 years, and I stepped out of that about a year ago. And I am also just turning 49. I just turned 49. So I am celebrating my last year into my 40s. And I believe that 50s are going to be the best years yet. I have a really good feeling about that.
Right? Yes. Good morning, Cheryl. Cheryl just hopped on. She's a wonderful, amazing lady as well in Missouri. So I would love for you to tell a little bit of your story, Steph.
Sure. So there's a lot to the story. I think part of too what I teach and coach is about using your story. And for the longest time, I was very quiet. I was a people pleaser. I was the one that did everything for everybody. And there was a lot that I had on my heart that I wanted to do, but I was just really scared to step forward and do some of those things because I think I struggled with it, maybe feeling a little selfish as well, because I always did what people expected of me as opposed to the things that I really wanted to do. So like I said, I've been married for 28 years. The first 20 years of my life was very, very chaotic. I had a very traumatic childhood. And thank goodness, with God's good grace, I survived that, met my husband right away. And I think at that point in my life, I felt like my prayers had been answered because when I was younger, I always prayed that I could, escape that home, that I would find somebody to love me. And I did just that. So I entered that marriage just, it was a struggle, but it's been 28 years and it's been a really great marriage. But I think what happened along the way is that I didn't realize that I should have been praying for something else, and that was loving myself. So I always felt like because God had granted me this great marriage, we started building a family and having kids. I found real estate, which was something I did enjoy for a long time, but it wasn't what I necessarily wanted to do. And I felt that if I wanted anything more, it meant that I was ungrateful for what was given to me. And so that is the way that I lived my life for many years, was that, if I said I wanted to do this or I wanted more, that I was being ungrateful for the gifts that were given to me. And so that was a struggle. I fought that for a very long time. And the funny thing is, when I came to a point where a couple of years ago, I lost some very important women in my life. They were 43 and 56. They both died suddenly. I think that put things into perspective, that it was now or never. And that if I really wanted to go back and do some of these things that, I had been just aching to do for a long time, that I had to start moving in that direction. And the funny thing is that when I did open up to my husband and those closest to me, that, you know what, babe, I've been doing real estate for the last 22 years, but I want to write, I want to coach, I want to teach, I want to speak. And it didn't happen. The conversation didn't really happen the way that I envisioned it in my mind. He was like, "What's taking you so long? just do
Ah,
it." And so I had just been building this up in my brain that I was going to let people down. And just this amazing thing happened as I started moving in the direction that, my heart was taking me. My children were happier. My husband was happier. And it just opened me up to meeting some incredible people as well. So the things that were holding me back for so long, or that I thought were holding me back, was just one thing, and that was myself. So
yeah.
I think many of us fight against that. We just
Yes.
stand in our way.
Yeah. And sometimes, the fear, it paralyzes us, right? So when
Yes.
we're trapped in that fear, it's like sometimes we are robbed of those blessings that are on the other side of that fear, that we just are scared to take that leap, not knowing that we can't see it. But that's what uh, God means by faith, right?
Right.
Just believing and not actually seeing what we need to just trust Him for. So, what is this new season for you, and what are you doing?
So, like I said, I was in real estate for 22 years and I enjoyed it. It was something I did really well. So, it was something I was comfortable with. But in the last year or so of that career, I began coaching. And I realized that I really loved coaching. I loved seeing people open up and realize that their dreams and getting really excited about something that maybe they didn't even think was a possibility
Right.
before. But I found during that time too that the ones I loved coaching the most were women of a certain age, those of us that were older, that had been home and had been raising their families for the last 20 years or working in corporate America. And so that really lit something under me. Like I loved working with these women. So I expanded a little bit just to work with women over 40 who were looking to start a career for the first time, build a business for the first time, or even do anything for the first time. And that it's not too late to do some of those things, whether it was running their first 5K. Of course, I couldn't train them for that. I could help the mindset, but as far as running, I was given, you have to go with someone else. But just the idea of seeing them excited because so many
Yeah.
of them felt like their time had passed, or it's selfish, or I need to focus now on my children, in college or grandkids or whatever that may be. So that was the beginning of it. And so I started moving in that direction. I started my podcast, Second Half Success Secrets, because
Awesome.
that was what I was passionate about. And then some other things started happening that I was helping them tell their story. And that became a big part of what I just wanted to get up every morning and do, because I think
Right.
that there's a lot of power in sharing our story, and that God has bestowed each of us with these gifts, whatever that may be, whether it be teaching somebody to sew or teaching somebody to craft or, whatever that is, each one of us has that. And that
Right.
there's a story attached to that. And when we
Right.
put those things together, that we're able to impact others' lives. And I think that's an incredible thing. We feel like when our kids are growing, we've done impacting lives. And I think
Right.
there's still so much to us. So then I started building this course and membership that I'm still working on, which is all about telling your story and using your story and those unique gifts that you have in order to impact lives, but yourself, because you want to do that. You want to impact your family's lives financially, but also impact others. And
Right.
there's so much purpose to be found in that. And that's what I'm working towards. And also writing. I am a writer. I've been a writer since I was a little girl. And it's something that everybody thought I would be a published author by the time I was 18. I went to college for journalism. I wanted to be a journalist and travel the world, but I fell in love, and things just happened. So it's like I'm taking out these old dreams and dusting them off. And
Yeah.
it's been so exciting and just, I don't know, liberating to realize that something that I thought was laid to rest 20 years ago is very much possible. And that's what I'm helping these other women do as well. And it's just been, I don't know, it's been exciting, and
Yeah.
it's just incredible that I'm moving in the direction that I'm in.
So when a woman is coming to you and she just sort of feels like she's in a funk and, maybe just comfortable in the life that she's had before. She doesn't know anything else. How do you really dig into her stuff? Like, do you take them through some kind of activity to find out what is your purpose? How do you get to somebody's real purpose when they say, well, this is all I've ever done. This is all I've ever known. I don't have anything else left.
I know. And, and a lot of women feel that way. Most of the ones
Yeah.
that, have come to me have an idea, kind of an inkling of what they want to do. But I've discovered in just talking to friends and in talking to other women that don't know, there's so much that just comes to light when you're having a conversation with them. Tell me about your family. Tell me about the things that you love to do. Tell me about the things that you want to do. And you see a change in their demeanor. You'll see their face light up. You'll see a difference in the way that they speak and the way that they hold their head. And then you lean into that, because I've worked with, a couple of people, I've talked to them that they get to the point where, I love decorating and I love sharing this with other people. I love cooking and I love sharing my recipes. It could be something as simple as that. And then they find that maybe.
Go ahead.
I lost you for a minute.
I know.
I don't know if it's my internet or yours, but and like I said, a lot can be exposed in that initial conversation about tell me who you are, the things that you love to do. Tell me about something maybe, you used to do that at 20 years old, what did you envision your life as? Because I think a lot of people like myself feel like if I go back to that time and say that at 20, I really wanted to do this and I didn't get a chance to, then that's saying that I haven't been happy being a mother or being a wife or doing this and doing that. And so you discover a lot about people just in that initial conversation, because you want to find out about the things that really do ignite that passion in them and that really make their face light up. And I think a lot of people are scared to dive that deep into it because they do feel like, I can't do that. That would make me look like it hasn't mattered what I've done in the last 20 or 30 years. And that's not at all it. There's so many of us that put dreams aside to care for our families. And now that we've pushed our children out there to live their own dreams, why can't we go back? Why can't we rediscover some of the things that we wanted to do? It doesn't matter that you're not 20 anymore, that you're 40 or that you're 50. You're still very capable. And if anything, I think you're even more capable because we have so many more skill sets that we've developed through the years. We have all of these experiences that we can use, in our favor. And there's so many things that we can do, but people are scared to really think about it because they feel like, if I lay out everything that I want to do or that I'm excited about, I can't do that. I'm a mom, I'm a grandma, I'm this, I'm that. And they just push it right back in there when there's so much that can just be discovered about people if they just lay it all out there and say, yes, if money wasn't an issue, if time wasn't an issue, if this wasn't an issue, these are the things that I'd love to be doing. And then we say, well, why aren't you? And why can't you? And then we start to dig deeper into trying to implement certain things that can start moving them in that direction.
Right. Yeah. And, and I think a lot of us also think about what will other people think?
Yes.
What if we fail? What if we go and start this thing and then we fail? What will somebody think? Well, I mean, it took a lot for me just to not worry anymore what anybody else thought for sure. It's like you just have to go out and do whatever like God has put in you as your calling to just go do and forget what everybody else thinks. And I think a lot of times too, like we talked about, on your podcast, is we do go into compare-itis. Well, that person doing that, I can never do it like they do it. And they have more of an education than me. And I think as women, especially this season, as we crawl in our little shell again. And it's hard to break that shell open. And I think that's a lot comes into play where we just really have to, I think, grow as individuals, right?
Yes.
and work on ourselves. It's like every day we can learn a new skill. It's like, I don't care how old we are, right? My parents live in a retirement home, and really, like, the average age is, well, my parents are 86, but the average age is like, some in there are 90, one just turned 100, but
Wow.
they take like lifelong learning classes. It's like, as long as you're able to like think and move, you're able to still learn.
Right. And that's, I think about my grandmother, and I think that's why so many of us in this particular generation do hesitate a lot, because we look at our grandparents, and by the time our grandparents were our age, they slowed down significantly, the most of them. They accepted the season that they were in because of their families. They thought, okay, this is it. Now I need to settle in and just be a grandmother. I need to just, tend to my garden, which can be wonderful in itself. But I think that we put ourselves in this position where this is it, because our grandparents showed us that this was it. And,
Yeah.
my grandmother slowed down significantly. And that always, it saddened me, because the more she slowed down, I think her life expectancy, went down as well, because
Yeah.
she had arthritis, she had all of these things. And if she would have gotten up and moved around a little bit more, or did some things, that maybe her life would have been different. And that's sad to me, because she had incredible gifts, these gifts
Yeah.
that, other people would have just been blessed to have known, but she settled into the life that she expected, it to be in her 40s and 50s, and just really never did anything else. And,
Right.
It's interesting the way that you said that we do constantly compare ourselves to others, and that's human nature. We all do it.
Right.
I do it. I know that I've met some people that are at the top of their game, and they do it. But what you have to remember is you are the only way that can do it the way that you can do it. And
Right.
there are people that are going to connect with you. There are people that are going to look at you and listen to you and say, she gets it.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe she didn't finish college. I didn't either. Maybe she does question herself. I do that. And so I think that's what you have to think about. You're not going to appeal to, 3 billion people. You're just not going to. There's
Yeah.
plenty of people I do not like listening to, but there's your people, your tribe, and you're going to touch them in ways that you cannot even imagine. But again, you're not going to be able to do that unless you put yourself out there. And I'm
Right.
telling you, they're waiting for you. They're
Yeah.
waiting for you.
Yeah. I had a coach, and I mean, his words like constantly leave an impact on me. It was about 4 years ago, but he said, Alice, be different.
Yes.
Be different. Be the one that stands out. Do it differently. And I don't know if you saw the picture that was going around on Facebook, but it was J Lo, and so it had J Lo on her pole, like she
Oh,
was.
gosh.
Of course, J Lo's 50, and then it had the
The
Golden
Golden
Girl.
Girls, yes.
Ah!
It's true, though. It's true. You think about 20 or 30 years ago, what 40 or 50 meant. Like I said, my mother's generation and my grandmother's generation, and it looked totally different, than we look now. It really does. But I think we're willing to push the envelope a little bit more
Yeah.
than the generations before us. We're willing to try more and not be
Yeah.
willing to just settle. And that's an incredible thing. So imagine what it's going to be like for our kids, our daughters and our granddaughters. And there's just so much that they're going to be able to achieve, because now we're paving the way, we're pushing forward. Not that I'll be on that pole anytime soon, but I think that, I'm making 40 or 50 look good.
Right. I look at that and I think, okay, well, we could go into compare-itis mode right there. Like, I'm 55. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't look like that at 50. But it also puts me in another mental space as like, I need to, keep on that self-care journey, keep
Yeah.
myself better today than I was yesterday, because it does really, it impacts the way that we're able to care for our family and others down the road too. So I look at J Lo, I'm like, okay, I got to take care of myself too.
we're maybe a little bit behind. You know?
A little bit behind there. But I don't know if you've seen, like that bodybuilder woman who is like, she's 80,
Oh
82.
yes, and she's beautiful, and it really is just about how well you take care of yourself.
But
Yes, it
she
is.
started working out at 70. I'm like, yes, I got time.
But see, it's stories like that, and I think that's what's important about your group and about what I'm trying to do too, is we have to share more stories like that. And the
Yeah.
more stories you share, just like, that meme resonated with you or that bodybuilder resonated with you, and you're like, yes,
Yeah.
goals. I think the more stories we put out there, the more women we touch, and they're able to look at that and say, hey, if she can do it, why can't I? And we all have
Yeah.
different things that we struggle with, of course, but it just puts things in perspective and gets us moving. Whereas maybe we would have laid in bed a few extra hours this morning
Right.
had we not seen that.
Yes. I think, really the main focus that I try to teach these ladies in here also is when they're coming up against any kind of struggle, any kind of identity, any pains, loss, whatever
Mhm.
you're feeling, like the first thing to do is just journal. Sometimes
Yes.
if we don't even know who we are anymore, just when we just sit down in the morning in a quiet space of 5 minutes and just journal your thoughts, journal where you want to live, what do you want to do? Where do you want to travel? It's like when you write it down, it's like that, those thoughts just create, some like hashtag goals I use, right?
Yes.
It's like write them down and then what do you need to do to get to that you are looking at getting to?
Right. And I've journaled since I was little, so I can talk all day long about the healing and how cathartic it can be. And it was how I coped. Like I said, I had a very traumatic childhood. There was a lot of abuse there. And I would write, and I had notebooks upon notebooks filled with first poetry and short stories, and then just writing about how I felt. And I don't think if I wouldn't have had that as a coping mechanism when I was younger, I don't know where I would have been. So I always encourage women, I encourage my children, to write
Yeah,
down how they're feeling, because as much as, I love my kids and I want to keep open communications, mom's not always going to understand. Your spouse is not always going to understand, but there's always that book in your own words, and there's just so much power in that. So I highly encourage women to use those journaling methods to, work through the things that they're struggling with now. And also when you're looking at it, like you said, you can write steps as to, this is where I'm at now, this is where I want to be. What are those things I need to do to be
yeah,
able to move in that direction? And that's one of the best things that you can do.
yes. So I think, one of those stories that'll help somebody as well is because when even our kids and even our adult kids, you know, they still watch and they still learn.
Oh, yes.
So I have a 27-year-old beautiful daughter in Philly, and she was just she, going through a little bit of a transition. So, when you're in corporate America and you have been there as well, sometimes, for one, you either get comfortable, two, you get, I won't say stuck in a position, but sometimes you're
It can
stuck in a,
feel that way.
yeah,
Yes, definitely.
yeah. But you don't realize the power that you have to when you journal it down and you write it out. So I told her for the next 3 weeks, I encourage you in the morning is to journal. Where do you see yourself? What position do you see yourself in? What city do you see yourself living in? What is that house that you want to move in? What does it look like? Like, get all of those clarities just coming to your vision. And, sometimes we all can come up with excuses. Well, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. But, especially for her, I said, I know that you walk to the gym every single morning. So if you feel like you're running out of time, you have your phone in your hand all the time. So you're going to journal it right there on your phone every single day. And do you know, like even last night, she says, it made a difference already because I forgot what I really wanted to do.
Yes. And it's the visualization of it all. I think that when you're able to visualize it, and I think sometimes with journaling, you'll notice like, 2 weeks you're writing in there, I hate my boss, I hate my boss, I hate my boss, I hate my boss. And you just deal with that. It becomes the norm. But when you're able to look back on it and you're like, oh my gosh, I felt the same exact thing for 2 weeks. What am I doing here? And I think it just puts things into perspective a lot more, because you realize that, okay, this is not healthy behavior. Whereas if you're living it day to day, you tend to forget what you felt the day before and the day before.
Yeah.
And you just continue to go forward in that pattern. Whereas when you're able to look back on it and reflect, you then can make a decision like, okay, this has been 3 weeks or 3 months or 3 years in running. Something has to change. And I remember somebody telling me, if you don't make time, you'll run out of time. And that's always something that's stuck in the back of my brain, that it's true. And that's one of the big things that's propelled me forward with that, is that you have to make time for those changes, or you'll reach the end.
Yes, exactly. And just like I sort of coached them this morning, is if you're constantly looking to tomorrow, you're missing the blessing of today.
Yes.
So all we have really is to today, and season today, and making the most of today and impacting somebody else's life today.
Exactly.
So I so appreciate you taking the time, Steph, and being here. I'd love for you to tell them where they can find you, if you have a group as well, and a website, whatever you can leave them with.
Sure. So I have my podcast, Second Half Success Secrets, which you can find on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, the typical places that you listen to your podcast. You can find me online too at stephessery.com. And I have a few freebies there. I am working on a group. I have a Facebook page, Second Half Success Secrets. I just started the Second Half Success Playbook. And in there, we're going to just be exploring, now that you've discovered there is more to life and there is more to living, I want to achieve X, Y, and Z. And how do I do that? And we're going to be creating some actionable plans and being able to try to move them in those directions. So that's in the works. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, it'll be live and I'll be moving people in there. But, listen to those podcasts. I have some incredible stories that people can listen to as well, where women are in that same season of life as they are. And they share with them how they were stuck, how they got unstuck, and how they're now living the life that they've always dreamed about living.
I love that. I always listen to a podcast now. Like when I'm getting in the car, I never turn on the radio. I'm always putting on my podcast, or walking the dog and putting on my podcast. So yes, podcast.
I know. And listen, and thank you so much. I just want to say thank you for what you're doing too, and putting those stories out there, because it makes me feel really good for what our children's lives are going to look like in the future, because of what someone like you is doing as well. And it's changing things for them.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yeah. World changers, all of us.
We are. And I encourage everybody that's listening to you as well to do that, make some change.
Oh, well, thank you again so much. And hopefully the women will see you in here, but you can pop your links in here after we're done as well. But have a great day, Stephanie.
I appreciate it.
Any of you any of you that are listening on the podcast, is if you have not subscribed to Steph's, or if you had not subscribed to Fulfilled After 55, we encourage you to do that. But I hope you have an awesome, amazing day, everybody. Bye.
Bye.